this video is cursed. I actually recorded all of this ahead of time and even spliced all the audio in the same day. It was going great. And then what happens while I'm cleaning out my computer to free up space, I arrange my files by age, to make deleting the ones I don't need anymore easier. Quick lesson, kids. Before you delete audio, make sure that it doesn't fuck up any of the projects that you're working on before you permanently delete them. Granted, when I did it, the selection was so large that it was like, we can't fit this in the recycling bin. Either get rid of it completely or we can't do anything. But still. So that felt great. Okay. Despite all of that, I have enjoyed the process of making this video, and I also enjoyed making the Maiden video, and people really seem to enjoy that one. It's been nice to be able to let myself be more critical of RWBY again, so why not keep the ball rolling? Those worried about me being overly critical of RWBY nowadays given my past, please don't worry, I will be addressing that at some point. I don't know, life is throwing a lot at me right now. Anyway, next up on the list of things to take shots at is the supposed center... Oh my god, please. While I'm recording, really. Doors are slamming while I'm recording. I hate my life. And next up on the list of things to take shots at, unless something else goes wrong, is the supposed centerfold of the show's conflict and world building, the creatures of Grimm. With their name lifted from the Brothers Grimm, these monsters are what have driven humanity behind the walls of the Four Kingdoms. And they're why the world needs hunters. Much of the older volumes teased at their mysterious origin, with some genuinely intriguing moments in the world of Remnant about them, as well as Oobleck's mentioning of Grimm intelligence as a Goliath calculates all the ways it could crawl through the screen and murder you and your entire family. Even though it's still adorable, because it's an elephant! How can I be scared of it? It's so cute! Oh, I want it as a pet. Even if it would kill me. You know what, honestly, I would thank it for killing me. But in practice, the Grimm are rather dull. They have a neat aesthetic, especially in the fact their color scheme matches the red, white, black, and yellow of Team RWBY, or at least that Team RWBY used to have. But most of the Grimm are easy to kill, and rarely are they ever used to explore the follies of mankind that they supposedly feast on. Essentially, they're just tools for cheap conflict when the plot keeps us from using any of the character villains. And yes, that does function fine, but it's so boring. Especially when so many of those character villains are just evil for the sake of being evil, which begs the question of why even have them in addition to the Grimm at all. So today we're going to be exploring why the concept of the Grimm isn't really being brought to fruition, and how RWBY could try to do so in the future, or how they could have done so in previous volumes. Because believe it or not, they were actually right on the money a couple of times. At least we will explore it, assuming something else doesn't go horribly wrong in the production of this video, which, knowing me, let's just do this. The creatures of Grimm are monsters of darkness originally created by the god of darkness, but are now under the control of Salem. Their primary goal has always been the destruction of humanity, not for sustenance, but because that was the purpose of their creation.
Your younger brother went and made something that shared his innate desire to destroy anything and everything.
The creatures of Grimm.
Because the little brother god of darkness was like, "Those are some pretty flowers that you have there, brother. It'd be a shame if something stomped on them." Grimm don't need to eat, they don't go after animals unless it's over territory, and they're known to become more intelligent as they age. Unlike most humans, but what can you do? The Grimm are also drawn to negative emotions. Whether they specifically feed on those emotions to grow stronger is never clarified, but the framing draws attention to their interest whenever the crowds in Volume 3 are upset, which eventually sparks the full-on Grimm invasion following Penny's death. Like the Maidens, the Grimm are an interesting concept that isn't fully explored. Rather, they're used for superficial conflict and rarely anything more. Describing the Grimm, they sound like demons that exist solely because of the follies of humanity, and thus should exploit that and use it to empower themselves at every opportunity. The older they get, the better their understanding of the depths of human darkness. In reality, though, most Grimm are only drawn to negativity whenever the show needs immediate conflict and drama, and it's never to actually make a comment about society or the characters themselves. We'll explore that point later, but right now let's just focus on the fact that the Grimm, for the most part, are pathetic cannon fodder. Attack on Titan does something similar in its world building with, well, the Titans. Spoilers for Attack on Titan Season 1 from here, so you've been warned. And for the record, no, I haven't seen Season 2 yet, so don't you fucking dare spoil me, heathens. The Titans are humanoid giants of unknown origin that have pushed humanity to the brink of extinction. To survive, humanity has built massive walls within which they live. To their knowledge, this is the only human settlement left, and it's heavily classist, with the rich and powerful safely kept in the innermost wall, and the poor and working class left in cities on the outer walls that are far more likely to fall to Titan attacks. And they do. Oh, they do. To survive, the humans also have what's called the Survey Corps. Okay, yeah, I know that officially in the dub they're called the Scout Regiment, but Survey Corps sounds so much cooler. Whatever you call them, they're trained to fight these Titans and defend mankind as human shields. When you break it down, it's essentially the same as the Grimm confining humanity to select locations where they rely on hunters to keep them safe. That's not saying Ruby ripped off Attack on Titan. That would be like saying any magical girl series ripped off Sailor Moon. Common tropes and setups are expected in any story or within specific genres, and Ruby has enough differences to stand on its own. And if you want to be that level of nitpicky, we could argue about how Attack on Titan City is eerily similar of the three-ring system of Ba Sing Se from Avatar, ain't it? The reason I bring up these similarities, however, is to illustrate my point on why the Grimm are so lackluster by comparing them to something that's very similar. Whenever Titans are involved in anything, Attack on Titan clearly shows how much of a threat they are. There's almost always a body count whenever they attack, and the characters' reactions and despair signal to the audience just how intimidating these monsters are. The first episode ends with a Titan eating the main character's mother alive, for God's sake. When have the Grimm ever done anything comparable? In Ruby, the Grimm are regularly slaughtered by students like they're nothing. The Beowulfs in the Red Trailer and the Initiation episodes, along with the Ursai, are minor roadblocks, while the Nevermore, King Taijutsu, and Deathstalker do prove challenging. They're nothing more than that. Challenges. They aren't horrifying threats that have definitely killed before and very well could kill professional hunters, let alone these kids who haven't even started classes at Beacon yet. And while we may all joke about Kevin the Dragon, or Wyvern technically, what does he even do aside from spawn more Grimm and break Beacon Tower? He's not involved in any fights, no one directly targets him, and he plays no role in Cinder and Pyrrha's fight, aside from this one cool shot. He even disappears until Ruby's Deus Ex Silver Eyes goes off. Like, where is he supposed to be during this fight? What is he doing? Is he just hovering in the sky, eating a bucket of popcorn while Pyrrha gets the shit kicked out of her? I don't know why, but now I am envisioning Kevin with his own reaction videos. And it's just clips of Kevin from the show, spliced onto pieces of media that he's reacting to. Someone make it happen. The only Grimm that have proven to be legitimate threats are the Nuclevi in Volume 4, the Queen Lancer in Volume 5, barely, the Apathy in Volume 6, more on them later, and yeah, that's it. And even then, the Nuclevi and Lancer are just challenges like the Initiation Grimm, while the Apathy don't provide any material for combat. The Leviathan is laughably underwhelming and irrelevant to what the characters are going through, and the Hound? We'll get to him later. The best example of the Grimm's lack of threat has to be the Breach, though. When you make the top priority of hunters to keep Grimm out of the kingdoms, and then you get an invasion of Grimm in the capital, surely there should be a high body count, including some notable characters, or any body count. Instead, it's just a series of characters beating the shit out of some dumb monsters for 10 minutes with no lasting consequences and no lessons learned. Swear to God, that reference was not intentional, but you know, it's there.
God damn it, Bart!
Likewise, the origin of the Grimm is incredibly generic and underwhelming. A lot of the Grimm's intrigue had to do with the mystery surrounding them early on in the show. Now that mystery is gone, answered with them being the generic homicidal creation of the God of Darkness who just left them behind. There's no story here. nothing to tie them into mankind's sins. Another example I want to explore is one from Tales of Berseria. So Berseria spoilers incoming. In this game's world, there are monsters called demons that, like the Grimm, have forced humanity to the brink of extinction, making them rely on warriors called exorcists to protect them. Through very, very fucked up means, but, well, that's another topic for another time. It's generally believed humans are turned into demons through a disease of unknown origin called demon blight. In reality, there is no such thing as demon blight. All humans create a substance called malevolence whenever they experience negative emotions. Produce too much malevolence, and that human, and potentially any humans around them, will be transformed into demons. A huge theme explored in the game is whether people who've become demons have relinquished their humanity, whether it's their own fault what's become of them, and even what it says about humanity that their negativity is capable of such destruction and monstrosity, and whether humanity should even have such feelings. Oof. This explanation of what demons are and how they come about directly ties into the themes the game wants to explore. By comparison, the Grimm were just created by some dude made out of grape-flavored jelly who likes to break his bones for fun, to destroy his brother's toys for funsies. So the Grimm in practice are boring, unthreatening, and breathtakingly underutilized. But let's talk about how this concept could be done justice by discussing the Grimm that have left the biggest impact on most people: the apathy. During Volume 6, the group arrives at Brunswick Farms, a seemingly abandoned settlement that's actually filled with people who died in their beds, as though they just never got out of bed and stayed that way until they passed. Very relatable, actually, especially in this... I'm still acting like it's 2020. It basically is still 2020, oh my god. We later discovered that this was caused by the apathy, a Grimm which causes its victims to lose the will to go on. Normally, they'll take your lethargy as an opportunity to tear you to shreds, but even if they can't reach you, the exhaustion alone will be enough to kill you, eventually. Good build-up and use of horror framing and music aside, the reason the apathy work is because they directly tie in with the struggles of the characters, at least in theory. After Jin's vision and the discovery of Oz's lies and Salem's immortality, there is no defeating Salem, yada yada yada, the characters are left in the middle of nowhere, unsure of whether even going to Atlas is worth the bother when they can't destroy their enemy. They're debating whether to just toss the lamp somewhere and go back home. They've become apathetic. God damn it! They don't explore it nearly as much as they should, but it's the strongest writing around the Grimm in the show, and should be the bare minimum across the board. Not only does it establish this particular Grimm as a legitimate, sincerely intimidating threat, but it also helps as a way to explore the character arcs and themes in a more substantive way. Imagine if every Grimm, or even just older Grimm, were tailor-made to correspond to specific struggles and arcs in the way that the apathy are. The only Grimm that comes close is the Nuclevi, and even then it doesn't really feed off of Ren's anger, his grief, his trauma. More so it's just, hey, you killed my dad. That was rude. Nora's little slap to snap Ren out of it was a very shallow way to show, hey, what Ren's doing isn't good for him. It wasn't a full exploration of what the trauma has done to both of them, how it's affected their relationship. It's more vague. It's incredibly vague and is incredibly frustrating because the show is so close to doing something interesting, and then it just refuses, it just stops. For another example, I'm gonna point to Witch. The animated series, at least. In the show's second season, we're introduced to 4 new minor antagonists called the Knights of Destruction. Their leader, the big bad of this season, Nerissa, makes it a point to target the Guardians, the main characters, in their home lives through subtle methods, and as such, the Knights draw power from specific negative emotions that the girls experience. There's Ember, who feeds on pain and misery, Tridart, who feeds on fear and despair, Kor, who feeds on anger and fury, and their leader Shagon, who feeds on hatred. Do not let them have access to social media, or especially Twitter, because if they do have access to it, they'll become invincible and we'll all die. Each of the knights is used to explore the girl's struggles, be they episodic or continual. The primary example being the lead character Will's hatred of Shagon when he makes her believe that he's kidnapped and tortured her boyfriend Matt.
Matt? Did you hurt him?
How much would you hate me if I had?
You're a about to find out!
Tickles.
Fam, this show is a treasure. Oh my god. There are also visual cues to show you that this is all intentional. Whenever a character experiences negative emotions around the knights, you see those emotions manifest as an aura that the knights absorb and draw power from. There's even an episode where Tridart draws so much fear from one character in particular, he basically becomes a titan in his own right. Would also help so that it further communicates to the audience what a character is feeling for sure, so we're not left debating about what characters feel for years in YouTube comments. So imagine with me if we had Grimm more like the Knights to help explore what the characters are going through. Yang's abandonment issues, for example, especially during volumes 4 through 6, maybe we could have had some type of Grimm that exploits her fears that the people she loves will all leave her, or a Grimm that exploits Blake's self-loathing for what she's put her friends through. It would make them far more relevant than the random sea dragon, especially if we could visually see some kind of aura that signals negative emotions from the characters that the Grimm are feeding on. You could even take it a step further and use it to explore societal issues. The Faunus, for instance. Since Atlas is supposed to be the most bigoted, systemically unjust place on Remnant, you could have a Grimm that feasts on that. It draws power from the racism that humans harbor towards the Faunus, and is even intelligent enough to try and amplify it. If you want the younger fledgling Grimm to be your standard cannon fodder, then some of these visual cues for negative emotion will probably be enough, along with the body count. Please let them just kill things. Like, are we an adult show or not? But having the stronger, more unique Grimm hyper-focus on specific issues the characters experience would make them far more resonant. Even the Hound could stand out as a Grimm that's able to shapeshift and speak. It seems to be an incredible pain while it's growing its wings, so maybe it's more like a human than the other Grimm, or is even a human that Salem twisted into a Grimm abomination. It's the ultimate expression of negativity and darkness, corrupting a human and turning them into a monster. Something far more sinister than a cute demon doggo that my friend Cinzy wants merch for. Though for the record, the Hound is still adorable and a better character than Cinder has ever been, and I would die for him. And yes, we're serious on that merch. Okay, so Cinzy's idea was a plushie for the Hound. Maybe it could be life-size, maybe there could be a life-size version, who knows. But when you squeeze its paw, it says... You heard them, RT. Make it happen. Lord knows it would be better than overpriced hoodies with concept art on them that's somehow gayer than anything in the show. Also, I want the Hound to laugh at Cinder. Just a full-on 30 seconds of the most horrifying, bone-chilling laugh that you've ever fucking heard. All 'cause Cinder's a goddamn idiot. So the Grimm are boring as sin. Well, not truly. If they were like Sin, they would be fun. They're a great concept that's not being used as it should. Nowhere near as egregious as the Maidens, mind you, but still annoying. I hope I've explained my case well, and moreover that you enjoyed. And also, please know, because the comments are going to be screaming about it, Lord knows, I critique the show because I love it, and I'm always trying to be honest about how I feel. And this is all honest. And if that doesn't really fly with you, I'm not sorry? Okay, that's a little kind of mean to put it, but I have to be honest to how I feel. And I don't want to blindly praise the show anymore. I just don't. I say this out of love, because sometimes you need tough love to wake you up when you're doing something not good. Also, I want to note that I know a lot of you have been dying for Volume 8 content. If you didn't see, I made a community tab post a couple months back that I would be abstaining from reactions this year. I've been watching Volume 8 privately and loving the experience, as I feel keeping my distance from fandom discourse and social media, especially Twitter, has been a great move for my mental health. I hope you all understand, and thank you to the people who continue to show their support. I will most likely be doing a full video essay or review of Volume 8 at the end once it's all over and I'm able to fully process my thoughts, but for now, that's it. Yeah. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more content like this from me, then be sure to not only subscribe to the channel, but also to ring that bell for notifications, because YouTube hates creators. And if you're willing and able, please consider supporting myself and the channel over on Patreon for early videos, video scripts, and access to the private Union of War Discord server. I'm the Unicorn of War, and I'm serious about the Hound plushie. Don't make me take a shot at those hoodies again. Oh my god, it's been 8 volumes. How are we still waiting for Bumblebee content? You know, after being fed by so many different amazing shows like One Day at a Time, or Owl House, or Pose. Pose is great, y'all. You should watch it. It's on Netflix. At this point, I'm not satisfied with Scraps anymore. Just say they're gay and have them date. It's like, it's Rooster Teeth. What higher-ups did you have in Volume 2 that would keep you from doing that? No, I'm not letting this go. I should make a video on this. I will probably make a video on this. Actually, I'm pretty sure Maxwell has made a video on this. Let me check. I'm keeping this in the video, yes, because this is me. Yes, okay, it is in the works, but when it is out, I will share it, and then I will probably make my own video on the topic and add any points I feel I can. I don't know. I had to re-record all of this, and I'm exhausted, so I'm just gonna go die, I guess.